All right, I guys doing today. We better hop into a little reaction of first things first. Though you already know what to do, and if you don't, then let me show you. Just gotta hit a little exit full screen, scroll just a little bit, like the video, full screen it back up. You feel me? All right, so we got a nice video today. I got high expectations for this video because the last one that I've seen from this channel was fantastic. A long time ago on this channel, we reacted to, I believe, the Christian Bible contradictions game show video, and that video was not only hilarious but it also did really well on my channel in the full measure of transparency. This just came across my recommended, and I saw it. I was like, what would Jesus not do? And I was like, this gotta be funny, right? It's gotta be funny. And then we're gonna see what truth we can see, what misconceptions we could see, and just have a fun time. This, not everything gotta be so serious, right? We're made in God's image. We're humorous creatures, right? We find stuff funny, we laugh. So I bet that God does too. Anyway, let's check it out.
Okay everyone, I've looked at the state of my creation and there's still sin and disobedience everywhere. I've decided that something needs to be done. What? What's the problem?
Sir, whenever you say that kind of thing, it usually means that a lot of people are about to die violent and painful deaths.
Forget all of my past initiatives. I'm going to Earth myself in human form, and it's going to be the turning point of the history of creation.
Interesting. That's going to change the world.
So, are you actually going to fix things or just bully them more like you usually do?
What do you mean?
Like, are you just going to threaten to send rebuke upon them and vexation, fever, inflammation, pestilence to destroy them? Extreme burning, blasting, mildew, the terrible botch of Egypt, scabs, hemorrhoids, madness, blindness, the itch that can't be healed? Then threaten to allow their enemies to defeat them with swords, and threaten to allow their dead bodies to be pecked apart by birds, and ripped apart by wild animals, and to force them to see other people have sex with their wives, and to allow their children to be kidnapped by their enemies, and threaten them with leg injuries, and that things will get so bad that they'll have no choice but to eat their own children?
Eat their own children? I've never threatened things like that, have I?
Yes, you certainly have.
Well, it was okay for that time and that cultural context.
I just want to say, right, two things. Firstly, God would never forget what he did, right? He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He's standing on business 10 toes every time, right? But I would say with the difference then, in terms of like, this is not one of those moments where I'd say that this is cultural context, right? The allowing for slaves thing, that is supposed to be looked at with the lens of cultural context in terms of indentured servitude and all that. This just sounds like, hey, listen to me, or this is what's gonna happen to you. This is how bad it's gonna get. Do you realize how bad it is that you're so hungry you gotta eat your own kids? You know how bad that is? You know how much discipline you'd have to be willing to give somebody to say, I'm gonna make your whole culture watch their wives get taken, villages pillaged, and you're gonna have to eat your kids? You know how disrespectful you'd have to be to your father in heaven to allow him to make that happen to you? Some astronomical amount. And I wouldn't say it was okay for that cultural context in the sense of like, it was for God clearly, but that's also just what happened when you got pillaged real bad. And getting pillaged real bad was the form of discipline that they had to endure for not following along with God, even though they had ample time to do so. This is Deuteronomy. They already got freed from Egypt. They done seen what he's capable of. What do you mean you're still gonna disobey? Can we get some heads in here that says like that's crazy? Where they at? Anyway, so you get the point there. Discipline, crazy amount of discipline, nonetheless, but discipline.
You can't judge my actions in that situation
not
against
that.
Sir, you know we don't buy that old line, and no one else ever will either.
I bloody bet they will. You watch. How much do you want to bet? Come on. They'll be saying to each other, it was okay in that cultural context.
no,
You can't
no,
judge God's
no,
actions from a
no,
human
rubbish.
perspective.
Sir, you were saying about your trip to Earth?
Oh, yeah. I'm going down there to perform the blood sacrifice to end all blood sacrifices.
You're going to perform a sacrifice? To whom?
To myself. And it's going to be a human sacrifice. And the human I'm going to sacrifice to appease myself is myself.
Sir, that doesn't make any sense. Well, suit yourself with that, Lord. But listen, for a long time we've been putting together some ideas for things on Earth that really need your all-powerful attention. And since you're actually going there, perhaps you'd like to see our ideas?
Let's have a look. What are these for?
Well, when you go down there and dwell amongst them, it'll be the first time that humans have ever come so close to their designer. So we figured that you'd want to reveal some basic medical knowledge, like teaching them that disease is caused by microscopic viruses and bacteria, and that they can easily prevent diseases from spreading by doing such things as...
Yeah. Think of it, Lord. With just a bit of information to get them started, the church you establish will be the world authority on health and medicine forever. Think of how clearly that will show that you alone are the one true God.
Well, interesting idea. That certainly would convince a lot of people. But no, I think I'll just tell them that demons are responsible for disease.
So there's three things. Firstly, this verse that he pulled up, Lord, have mercy on my son. He has seizures and suffers terribly, and often falls into the fire or into the water. What does that even mean, he falls into the fire? Doesn't matter, right? All that matters is, firstly, he's epileptic. This is not the type of sickness you would block with washing your hands or whatever, cough, sneezing into a mask. Jesus rebuked the devil, it departed out of him, and he was cured. Right? Right. They cured him by casting out a demon. Kind of showing that the demon was causing the sickness. Matthew 10:5. Go forth, the sheep. This doesn't even say anything. It just says heal the sick. Right? Heal them, firstly. Cleanse these people, the lepers. Raise the dead, comma, cast out devils. That's just another thing along with healing people. Not necessarily saying casting out devils will make people pure, even though we see that here, he rebuked him, right? Saying, get out of that man, and that man got fracked, and blah, blah, blah. Freely you have received, freely give. And then, Matthew 12, this one was possessed by a demon, and he was blind, could not speak, brought to Jesus. Jesus healed the man, then he could speak and see. And he said, he doesn't cast out devils by God, but by Beelzebub. Meaning the Pharisees admitted that he casted out devils. Not only that, but casting out the devil made this person... So, like, gang, what point are we trying to make here? You know what I'm saying?
Disease.
Well, you could, sir, but that's not actually true, is it? And they'll figure that out for themselves someday. By telling them that, you'll be effectively shutting down all progress in medicine for centuries.
That's right. You're at least going to tell them about penicillin on this trip, aren't you, Lord?
No, look, even if I wanted to, I won't have time. I mean, between fishing trips and long periods of time spent praying to myself, I don't think I have much spare time to just go around giving mankind life-saving medical information.
How long would it take just to teach them about vitamins and nutrition and hygiene? All you've ever said is that certain foods are unclean, when we all know that they're not.
Look, you want medicine and health? Okay, I'll miraculously heal some sick people. That'll be enough, won't it?
The foods were unclean just to kind of set them apart. It wasn't anything that with the foods, I don't think. But I don't really know. Like for the pork thing, I mean, pigs eat anything. I think that was part of the reason. And shellfish, like they're bottom feeders too. And then to not eat them was kind of just to set them apart. I believe. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I believe.
I bet no one else is recorded in human writings as ever having miraculously healed the sick, are they?
Well, actually, I don't understand, Lord. Why do you want to help such a limited number of people in just one time and place when you could so easily give just a tiny piece of your infinite knowledge for them to pass on and build upon and help all of humanity?
Look, I know what you're saying, but I want to keep up my mysterious image. It's much more mysterious to be able to end disease, but choose not to, see?
All right, health aside, what general scientific knowledge are you going to teach them on this trip to help mankind develop?
Develop? Scientific knowledge? Well, nothing, of course. What's wrong with life as they're living it now?
Sir, they know next to nothing about the universe they're in, and they're suffering as a result. They come up with silly superstitions and then kill each other over them. You could end that instantly just by revealing a few basic scientific truths. And while you're at it, you could tell them some really advanced scientific and mathematical concepts, so that later, when they confirm those truths for themselves by their own experiments and discoveries, nobody will be able to doubt that it really was you, the Lord of the entire universe, in human form.
Hey, I like that idea. Like, I could drop some hint about energy being mass multiplied by the square of the speed of light, or accurately describe the structure of the solar system. But actually, no, I needn't bother. See, I've already put in the scriptures that the earth hangs upon nothing over empty space. And
this quote that he had actually comes from Job, like it said. However, this is just Job talking. This is not Job revealing any great, prophecy, not Job speaking with any type of truth or whatever. It's just saying, hell is naked before him. Destruction has no covering. He stretches out the north over the empty place, hangs the earth upon nothing. God stretches the northern sky around his space, hangs it. What does that even mean? It literally says in like places like Psalms, he's built the earth upon pillars, right? And they stay there, you know. So this is different than that, because this is just Job in his like grief-stricken state spouting things that he thinks are true. Before, this is like, I believe Job is before Moses and all that. Like, this is back early. This is like the baby face fresh earth that we only get to dream about. So I would not count this as a considerable tale of what God said, because God did not say that.
Face it, I mean, how is that not obviously and irrefutably divinely revealed scientific knowledge about the nature of the universe?
Well, you also told them that the Earth sits upon pillars.
No, that one's just metaphorical.
Oh, and the other one's not?
No, the other one's scientific fact. It's hanging in space.
Yeah, well, how are people meant to tell the difference?
Well, the ones that are correct are facts, and the ones that aren't correct are just metaphor, of course.
You're gonna get them started on electricity at least, aren't you?
No.
Why can't you just tell them about
Well, I
it?
can, but I'm just not going to.
Well, what's gonna convince people that you're a human manifestation of the infinite intelligence behind the entire universe?
Hey, I've got some spectacular miracles planned.
I've got a suggestion for a good miracle, Lord. Since you're omnipotent and infinitely caring, why not magically turn all of the world's deserts into fertile, productive land, thus impressing everyone enormously and alleviating hunger around the world forever?
Provide abundant food for the whole world? Why go to all that trouble when I can just walk on water in front of a few of my friends and impress everyone just as much?
Just as much? What do you... Or why don't you reconfigure the world's meteorological systems to give them the perfect balance of sunlight and rain to successfully grow their crops each season so they don't starve to death?
Well, no. Instead of that, how about I just give myself magical saliva that cures deaf and blind people when I wipe it on them?
Sir.
That's actually one of my favorite stories in the entire Bible, and it wasn't the fact that his saliva was magical, it's the fact that it was a touch point of faith, meaning that if the deaf or blind guy didn't show that he had faith in Jesus' saliva or any stupid thing that he said to do to cure him, if I just peed on the floor and said, rub this on your eyes and you'll be healed. If you didn't rub my pee on your eyes to be healed, you had no faith that my pee could heal you. If you did, you had faith that that rubbing my pee on your face would heal your blindness. How stupid you would be for falling for that would be astronomical, but if it actually healed you, it shows your faith was in the right place. I might still laugh at you for rubbing pee on your face, but at the same point, the pee healed you. But it was just a touch point of faith. It wasn't anything significant about his saliva, so to speak, even though when Paul was walking around, or when Jesus was walking around and a lady just touched his cloak, he became healed. So by that nature, he might have magical saliva, but also people hypothesize, like scholars just say that it was a touch point of faith, which is true, because a lot of what Christianity relies on is just faith. It's not these things. We shouldn't put our faith in the idols like, oh, just touch this thing and you'll be healed. It wasn't his saliva that was magic. It wasn't the robe that was magic. It was the faith that people had in those things, right? Because when she touched his robe, I believe he said, by faith you have been healed. And yeah, so yeah.
Millions and millions of people are going to continue to starve to death throughout the rest of human history because rather than do anything helpful about it, you'd prefer to go around spitting on disabled people.
Oh, and I'm going to make some wine too. Get this, out of water. Enough for a whole wedding party.
Is that really what humanity needs, sir? Wine?
You guys have no idea about how to display omnipotence, do you? What else have you got in here? Hold on. What's this about slavery? You're saying here I should discourage it when I go down there.
Well, it's a pretty easy human rights choice, and if you don't say anything about it, our forecasts show that it'll be almost 2,000 years before humans figure that out for themselves. And in the meantime, millions and millions of people are going to live lives of unbearable suffering and
Guys,
hardship.
it doesn't matter. You guys care about the most obscure things. I don't know where you get... What is this? You want me to promote equality between men and women? Women are only about 50% of the world's population. Why should they get such special attention?
Sir, again, we've run the figures on this. Giving women an equal status to that of men is not only fair and just, but it would lead to greater peace on Earth. It would even reduce poverty within societies. It would reduce the number of...
Hold on. You're...
No. I'll be watching a lot of quote-unquote red pill content, right? Here comes the Poor Man's Podcast type of spiel. Highly recommend that man's channel. It's called the Poor Man's Podcast. We see that when giving, women the same equal rights men are doing now, more domestic labor, right? We're doing that at a higher rate. Not only that, but like it just ruins society, right? Because this whole video I've been thinking of it. I didn't want to say anything until we got to that point, right? The genders are not equal. They are not. We don't need equal sports. We don't need that. They need to be separate. They do need to be separate. Firstly, talking about the scientific discoveries thing, we didn't need that. The world was so much better before that, right? Because people had faith in God before all this stuff, right? Religion shows that people live happier lives, are more satisfied with life and all this type of stuff. And unwanted babies went down, less sexual promiscuity. Literally everything was better. Society was so much better before science came around and people stopped trusting in God. Because when people had trust in God, there was an overall sense of morality between cultures and people actually respected that. But nowadays it's just like, oh, you can do whatever you want, you know, the sexual liberation. We got the feminist movement, which means you can have sex as much as you want, but no consequences because you have abortion. Right? And it's just like, come on, dog. We don't need that in society. We really freaking don't. We really don't. People need to keep their things in their pockets and keep it pushing. Electricity done made things worse too. We was just at the, oh my gosh, I'm probably gonna make a video about this, bro, because that thing was disgusting. It was an 8-year-old kid talking about some yachts. Some yachts. 8 years old. His balls ain't even dropped yet, bro. Like, what are you talking about?
Saying that just by simply telling them that women are equal to men, I could significantly reduce human suffering.
Life on Earth would be vastly improved, sir. Please?
Nah, I just don't want to mess with that kind of thing, you know? It's a cultural thing. I should just stay out of the way of...
something worthwhile and actually godlike. Miraculously stabilize the tectonic plates and bring an end to earthquakes and volcanoes. What a great sign of your power and kindness that would be.
No! I've heard enough. These suggestions are all ridiculous, just like yours usually are. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a date with a teenage Jewish chick to prepare for, and, let's just say that I'm gonna comfort her with my rod and my staff, know what I mean?
Oh, not the whole virgin birth thing again.
What?
Just about every savior deity ever invented has been born of a virgin.
That's enough out of you, Gabriel. In fact, get down to earth right now and tell her what I've got in mind.
Oh, me again, sir.
And you might let her know that her consent is neither requested nor required. And the rest of you, get over this silly obsession you seem to have with human welfare and happiness, and start concerning yourselves more with my arbitrary moral demands.
I don't know why we bother.
And then the last point that I have here, right at the end, he said, stop whatever, right, caring about human welfare and their conditions, right? We see that over time, right, the whole video, the angels wanted the best for humans. They wanted things that showed, prove God this, prove God that. That's not the point, right? The whole of history has been written out before we even lived it. And I don't care if atheists don't take this point and then choose to believe in God, right? This isn't that point. This point is literally just to show that it's consistent with the Christian worldview to not do those kind of things, because God wants us to choose him out of an act of love. He doesn't want it to be proven, which is why he stays obscure and ambiguous, right? And he's like that to other gods. But we've seen videos on his channel of people saying, here's all the way that God's like other gods, but not every God is the same way that God is like, right? All these qualities of other gods, God has them all wrapped up in one. Because it's not about proving himself to be true. It's not about forcing us to believe, because if you don't, you're literally disobeying truth, even though by accepting science over the truth of the like Genesis stories, then you're just not accepting truth, one. But it's just not about that. It's about choosing him freely out of love, and he wants us to suffer to realize, hey, this is so much bad, something's got to be good out there. Everything is working against me in this world. Something out of this world has to be with me. And then we choose him, and he rewards us with blessings and grace for choosing him, making it a relationship. It's not about, oh, you have to believe this because it's true. You have to believe this because it's proven. You have to do this because it's right, right? It's all just you and your relationship with God, a consensual relationship. If you say no, he will respect it. You say no, and he will move on. But he wants you to say yes. He wants you to consent. But if you don't, he respects that. And that's why he didn't do anything to make it proven, other than making it proven. All right, that's going to be the end of the video. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.